Hello, I'm Alex Gill with Anime on Location, and we are here at Matsuricon 2015 with Samurai Dan and Jillian. So, we saw you earlier in the summer at Colossal. Anything happened in the last couple of months that's worth talking about?
Yeah, they dropped the restraining order, so we're going to be allowed back next year. We're actually already under contract for that. It's been an interesting summer. It always is. For some reason, it's kind of about the same time Colossal Con starts. That kind of kicks the anime season into high gear, and we always have all these great plans for the summer, things we're going to do at home and projects to get done, and we turn around and here we are back to school starting in a week or two. The summer's just gone. So
I say I haven't had the most fun summer. I had my tonsils out 3 weeks ago, so he really enjoyed a couple weeks of me not being able to speak.
it was awesome.
But other than that, we've been doing pretty good, having a lot of fun traveling and working with people and going to conventions. So
Now, did the media get a little bit better at this convention, or has it been about the same? Like, what's your experience been?
So far, the media has been the same jerk group of people doing interviews that we have at every convention, the Anime on Location people. And I haven't figured out what to do about it yet because my natural impulse is prohibited. Yeah, we want to just beat people.
especially the camera guy. I mean, he needs punched in the head sometimes.
Actually, your camera guy acts like he's been punched in the head a few too many times. So, no, to be honest with you, most of the media people that we've dealt with in all the years of doing anime stuff, they've been actually more respectful than most. We get interviewed by TV crews fairly regular when we're performing because we're visual with the swords and everything. And a lot of TV crews have an attitude. I mean, I'm not trying to sound mean, but there's that little smirk about being assigned to interview the anime crowd thing, and it's almost like they're going into their interviews with that little bit of a mocking, making fun of, or not expecting to meet intelligent, well-thought people. And well, that part stays true. If they interview me, they're not meeting intelligent, well-thought of people. But the anime people that have interviewed us, those crews have been respectful and nice and actually interested in what we do, for all that we're not strictly anime.
Have you had any crews that have ever gone in while you're doing demos with like glide cams strapped on them that are, doing videos, things like that?
Yeah, we had somebody who was actually videotaping one of our stage shows, and they were really right on us, where we had somebody, if you've seen the end of our show where I'm test cutting with a real sword, a straw target sitting on a 4x4 base that's about 33 or 34 inches high. He was actually laying on the ground with the camera up at the mat so he could get this perfect visual. And he was literally putting his life in my hands. And if he's seen us practice, he may not have wanted to do that. But he mostly survived. He twitches more than he used to. But no, we've had some really weird requests for video stuff. But any exposure for us is good. So we're pretty accommodating, even with the Anime on Location people. Sitting with my back to a room full of people that I have no idea what they're doing. And so if you see me twitch and look over my shoulder, it just makes me nervous.
All right. What panels are you bringing to Matsuricon this year? What events are you promoting?
We actually just finished a new panel that's new for this year. It's Samurai versus Ninja, Honor versus Tactics. It's a little bit of a historical view of highlighting the differences between the samurai warrior and their culture and the ninja mythology and some of the history behind them, highlighting the differences. And then at the end, there's a quiz that all the attendees take to determine whether they're more like a samurai or more like a ninja. And that's been fun for us because the kids run around all weekend running up to me going, I got an 8. I was a 10. Do you remember me? I was -2. You said I was a psychopath. So that's actually been a lot of fun for us playing with that panel.
Have you noticed a predisposition to samurai or ninja from what you've seen?
Everybody seems to identify with the ninja phenomenon because there's freedom in kind of being the bad guy. And I hate to say it because I grew up with the John Wayne movies, and the good guy wore the white hat and the bad guy was always the bad guy. And in our culture today, like with the superhero phenomenon, when you go to a convention, do you see more people dressed as Thor or more people dressed as Loki? Loki. It's good to be bad. And for the cons, the kids all want to be ninja. We get a few people that end up on the samurai end of the scale, but they all want to be ninja. And if they take the test the first time and don't get ninja and end up as, they all want to take the test again now that they know what the questions are, so they can skew the results because everybody wants to be ninja.
It's like Facebook quizzes. Everybody takes them more than once to get the answer they want before they post it to their wall.
Yeah. All right. So besides Cards Against Humanity, have you been able to interact with voice actors at other panels? You were on one last night.
I was. The con chair assigned me to go to a panel, an uncensored panel last night. And when I say assigned, she asked me really nicely and then threatened my paycheck if I didn't go. And the panel was, your mother warned you about voice actors. So it was a uncensored Q&A for voice actors, and I'm not a voice actor. I have no voice acting credits to my resume, and I never will, because I have no talent, though. I have no talent at a lot of things I do, but I'm heavily armed, so I get away with a lot of things. I had nothing to add. Most of the way through the panel, some girl stood up and asked a question. She was, Samurai Dan, I've never seen you this quiet before. If you could say anything right now at this panel, what would it be? I'm like, good night. And that was my contribution to a 2-hour panel, as I said good night, and there may have been a reference about me doing dishes.
This is true.
So yeah, I get to interact with the other guests at a lot of things. Cards Against Humanity seems to be the one that I get to participate the most in because no one's asking, so when you were the voice on Dragon Ball Z, I'm like, that wasn't me. Didn't you do Samurai Jack? No, I'm Samurai Dan. I'm taller, not as good looking.
Have you ever done any custom loadouts for your Cards Against Humanity games where you make your own?
No. And everybody loves doing that, doing that, the add-ins. But the difficulty with that is when we play Cards Against Humanity at conventions, it's usually for a large crowd. When we're at Colossal Con this year, it was our 3rd year in a row of playing the game, and we've had 500 people play Cards Against Humanity at the same time each of the last 3 years there. And when you do custom cards, they're funny to the person who wrote the card, and usually like 3 or 4 people in their little circle. But the jokes are kind of written for an inside joke, and it doesn't have broad enough appeal to do with a large group. And so the only time we ever had the custom loadout cards is every once in a while we've had a guest that may or may not have been drinking things that weren't approved by the convention beforehand, that just had to throw in some of their own cards. And they laughed hysterically, which meant we all laughed hysterically because it was a guest of honor. But normally then we don't put in...
The custom, if you want to call them that, cards in our deck are the ones from the Christmas packs that are actually printed with like Samurai Dan or Samurai Dan's butt. So
let's leave my butt out of this.
All right. How are early reviews of the novel from fans this summer?
This is where I'm supposed to brag about how well the book's doing, isn't it? And I'm not. I'm so bad about saying nice things about myself.
You had a really awesome.
We've had the book's been out for long enough now that there are a lot of people who've actually read it, and so there's more reviews coming in. And the reviews have all been positive, and I want to say it's because it's just a really good book, but it might just be people feel sorry for me and they're saying nice things. But a couple months ago, one of the things that happened was another author got my book and read it, and she's got 5 or 6 children's books that are published, and she doesn't do grown-up books. I wanted to say adult novels, but that sounded different. She does horror novels. But she put up a really big review on the book and the highlights and what she liked and what she didn't like. And it was an amazing review. I felt like she got everything I was trying to do when I wrote the book, all without me talking to her about it. And so I love that review. I'll have a bad day and feel like nothing's happening and it's not going anywhere. And honestly, I'll read the review just because I'm getting some love. And it's wonderful. So I'm happy with the reviews. I just wish there were more of them.
More feedback, the better. So, what is your favorite type of motorcycle and your second favorite type of monster movie besides werewolves, I'd assume?
You remember? Yeah, all-time favorite horror movie was the original, where The Wolfman with Lon Chaney Jr. So I like so many horror movies. It ends up being kind of a toss-up, but you kind of go with classics when you're picking, you know, what's the one. And I love the original Halloween. The music, the scenes, even though the pace on it was kind of slow by modern standards, it doesn't seem, but it's that overall sense of impending doom and creeping was really well done. That would be my second favorite horror. I'm answering your questions backwards. Favorite motorcycle, I own a Harley Davidson Sportster. It's the XL, the R, the 883R. It's set up like a flat track racing bike, so it's got broad handlebars, kind of like a dirt bike. So even though it's a street bike, it's laid out comfortable for taller people. There's motorcycles with bigger engines, but honestly, they tend to be, I'm not trying to be mean, but the motorcycles tend to be shorter and wider. And so when you're really tall and built like a praying mantis to start with, being perched on top of a motorcycle just makes me look even more comical. So I love this motorcycle in that it's kind of long and tall, and it's set up for me.
But it's not quite a chopper either.
Right. Yeah. It's not a chopper. My dad was in a motorcycle gang briefly growing up and had a chopper. The whole no extended front forks, no fender, no rear shocks, no front brake. I mean, a rolling death trap. And it looked really cool. I noticed he didn't ride it very often. Traded in for a Honda Goldwing, and then they went everywhere on that. My wife is a huge fan of Triumph.
Scrambler.
Triumph Scrambler. Someday we'll have one.
Eventually.
All right. Jillian, what was Ooh. What was Dan's
Where do you get these people?
Cleveland? We're not Detroit. What was Dan's anime and manga knowledge when you first met him?
Absolutely zero. It's still not very large, but we've been able to at least teach him the important aspects to be careful of late night at conventions.
I know what yaoi is now. And I know the difference between hentai and hetalia, because I made that mistake once and walked into a panel that I thought was about the different countries that a friend of mine is one of the writers for. And I walked into a scene that I can't wash from my mind no matter how much eye bleach I use.
But no, I actually, years ago when we first started performing more, Dan would take our performance troupe from our martial arts school and go to weekend events, and I would be responsible for staying home and teaching classes throughout the weekend at the martial arts school. But then I'm stuck bored at home and alone, and what I would end up doing is staying up all night watching TV and cable, and then you get on Adult Swim, and pretty soon you learn things you never knew existed in the anime world, which is part of...
Meanwhile, I'm out unsafe on my own, unsupervised.
So he's had kind of a crash course in education, beginning to perform for anime conventions, and learning things that he didn't know existed. Tentacle monsters were scary.
Rule 34. I didn't know what that was, and when someone first pointed it out, I said, that's not true. I've eaten Pringles my entire life, and I guarantee there's no... Yes, there was. Someone on a smartphone pulled it up.
You're welcome.
One step away from Murphy's Law. All right. August is football preseason. As we get closer to the start of the season, got predictions?
Yeah. I'm going out on a limb. Miami Dolphins are going to win the AFC East this year. They will dethrone the Patriots if they haven't managed to do it themselves.
After the deflate game?
You get the deflate, yeah. NFC, obviously, I still think the Green Bay Packers are the team, but since they're my favorite team, they're always going to be the team. But I think quietly, last year the Detroit Lions kind of flew under the radar, and they made the playoffs, went 11-5. And just like last year, no one's making a big deal about them again this year. And they've got a new running back that has been blowing it up in practice, and in his first preseason game, had a 45-yard run. Right, I mean, they're playing really well. and I would look for the Lions to maybe take a couple positive steps in the playoffs this year. So there's my wild and crazy prediction.
All right. Any other final words you'd like to get out to the fans? Anything you'd like to mention?
Buy my book.
You're very cute.
I'm very cute.
Dan, Jillian, it's been awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having us.